welcome back to an early room one-on-one from the Homeboys, and we're looking ahead again to the Champions League match day 2 when Celtic, for the first time since the 20th of October 1992, head to Dortmund and take on last season's Champions League runners-up Borussia Dortmund. Before I introduce my fantastic guest, let's have a quick look at the glorious past of our German friends. Founded in 1909 in the back room of the Zum Wildschut bar, the name Borussia, while Latin for Prussia, was taken from the Borussia brewery in Dortmund. The full name is Ballspielverein Borussia 09 or Nuf 9 and play their home games at the Westfalenstadion, now officially named the Signal Iduna Park, which holds 81,365 allegedly. They've been German champions 9 times, runners-up a record 11, DFB Pokal winners 5 times, and Super Cup winners 6 times. They won the European Cup Winners' Cup in 1965-66 at Hampden Park, and they were runners-up in the UEFA Cup twice, 1993 and 2002. And of course, they were European champions once in 1997 when they beat holders Juventus 3-1 in Munich. However, we are looking at the current team, and I am delighted to welcome author, journalist, editor, and all-round great guy, Uli Hesse, to the show to tell us about his team. Well, Uli, I was going to say how do I find you, but I hope you're well, mate.
Hello, Scott. First of all, it's my pleasure, even though it was a depressing evening.
Yeah.
You know what? Everything about the very first line you said is incredible, isn't it? I mean, we haven't played Celtic, as you said, since 1992, which is incredible.
Wild.
You know. I mean, these are 2 clubs who regularly play in Europe, and we've never been paired. We've been waiting for it for a long time, but it never happened. And the other thing, of course, in the same sentence you said, Champions League finalists Borussia Dortmund, which still sounds crazy, but yeah, I guess it's true.
Yeah, we'll come to that. We'll come to that very, very shortly. So now, Uli, me and you have spoken before. Like you said offline, we were saying 4 years ago. I think we were heading into COVID maybe at that point. I think we might have been. So no matter how bad it is on the pitch, things are a wee bit better. Maybe.
Yeah, lots of things have happened since then, right?
Oh, you're not kidding.
I mean, especially for my
several managers for a start.
That's true.
Right, so me and you spoke. We looked at previous ties and we looked at the fantastic history of BVB themselves. But before we get into things, right now, you've wrote. For those who don't know, you've wrote a good few books, generally about German football, some of the massive clubs and some of the massive players. Do you still get to the games now?
Yeah, regularly again.
Brilliant.
I think when we last spoke was 4 years ago. Of course, there were no games. And I probably mentioned that I'm a season ticket. I was born in Dortmund, was raised more or less near Dortmund. I'm a season ticket holder since '82.
Fantastic.
But I had to move away for professional reasons. I lived in Berlin for a while. I think when we talked 4 years ago, I was living in Berlin. But since then, we've become grandparents for the first time.
Oh, congratulations. There you go.
One of those things about COVID was, football stopped, which was bad. But it was also most people realized I can work from home. Actually, I can work from almost everywhere. So we combined these things and said, well, let's go back home let's go to what is essentially home for us, like the Dortmund area. So so we moved 2 years ago, and I've seen I guess most home games since then. Sometimes I have to go away on to do interviews or report on things, but
Excellent, mate. Excellent. So as you say, a lot has changed then, huh? You'll be babysitting a lot more.
Yeah, exactly. He's he can say Borussia. He's only 2 years old, and it's a difficult word. This is a difficult word, even for Germans. But he can say it.
Brilliant. Yeah. Great stuff. Right. So this, before we kind of get into what's happening just now and and next week and stuff. I always like to have a wee look about last season because it gives us a great position to see how we got to this place. And I think last season was a massively interesting season. As well, you know, I would consider myself a BVB fan. I wish them all the best, apart from a week and a half's time, of course. But so we're going to have a look at last season, right? So Edin Terzic retained his role as head coach after losing the league on goal difference the season before. Now, league-wise, in my opinion, wasn't great. Despite not losing a game until November and the inevitable collapse to Bayern, some frustrating defeats over the season saw the team struggle to make fourth place in Champions League entry. Despite breaking the hoodoo and beating Bayern in Munich for the first time since 2014, Bayern's own collapse took some of the shine off of that achievement. BVB would end up finishing outside the top four, but fortunately, due to the country's higher coefficient, still gained entry to the Champions League. So from 34 games played in the Bundesliga, 18 wins, 9 draws, 7 defeats, 8 points, 8 goals scored, 43 conceded, plus 22 goal difference, 63 points on board, 2 points behind Leipzig, 16 ahead of Frankfurt, but ultimately 27 points off the winner Bayer Leverkusen. Now the Pokal came and went by a team we'll talk about in a minute. A 6-1 away win over Schott Mainz in August, then a 1-0 home win over Hoffenheim, round of 16 tie away to Stuttgart. They saw BVB go down 2-0. Now, as we spoke about a minute ago, the Champions League seemed to offer little and delivered lots. And a group with PSG, Milan and Newcastle United, 2 wins over the English side, an away win over Milan and a draw with the Italians at home, a defeat to PSG and a home draw allowed BVB to top the group. 11 points, 3 ahead of both PSG and Milan. A tough but winnable tie with Dutch champions PSV was exactly that. A 1-1 away draw and then a 2-0 home tie, 2-0 home win saw them through to play Atletico Madrid up next. A 2-1 away defeat was sorted with an outstanding 4-2 win a week later. In the semi-final, 2 1-0 wins over PSG was enough to secure that final place. So since the first time since 2013, Real Madrid waited. A 2-0 defeat was a disappointing end to a disappointing season. Now, there is some massive highs to go with some hugely frustrating lows in there. Now, here's a hard one for you, even you with all your experience. What's your thoughts on that season?
Well, it's not as difficult as you think, because, well, you know, I'm team Edin Terzic. I like the guy, but he really divided opinion. You know, all last season. I mean, as you rightfully said, starting with that, it generally started on the last day of the season before that. Yeah. You know, when we just needed to win at home. You know, couldn't deliver, lost the league title, and there were doubts over the team, you know, because these things, you know, can kill teams, you know, they can break teams. So it was kind of good to see that this didn't quite happen. But there were mainly, I mean, you talked about the league and the results and everything, but more important than the results were, you know, was the football. You know, most people were very disappointed with the football. Yeah. And so there were always doubts about whether or not Edin Terzic would be allowed to continue as a coach. And then, you know, we had this incredible run in the Champions League, which is for many reasons. I mean, we were lucky in a way, you know. I mean, PSG, I think they hit the crossbar or the post 6 times over those 2 legs. Then again, the Atletico game was one of the greatest games ever. At the ground, you know, and I'm going, you know, I saw my first game there in 1977, but it was a fantastic game. The atmosphere was great. And, you know, and then they had this thing about, you know, the new Champions League format. And as you said, suddenly Dortmund, you know, qualified for the Champions League. And my son said, Edin's got more lives than a cat. Because at that point we thought, you know, okay, they're not going to fire him now. I mean, you know, He did what he was supposed to do, qualify for the Champions League, even though in a strange way, took the team to the Champions League final. So it was, but you asked me about what I make of the season. It was what I kept telling people was the amazing. I think, like I said, I'm team 18. So, the opinion was divided. About half of the fans, I would say, said, this is a good team. This is a good squad. We should be playing better football, and we should have better results. And the other half of the fans, and I'm in that group, said, this is not a great team. This is not a fantastic squad. We're doing what we can, and we'll be lucky if we qualify for the Champions League. This team finished in 5th place in the Bundesliga, and that's fair and square. That's so we had those two camps, and there was this ongoing debate about whether the team is overperforming or underperforming, or maybe underperforming in one competition, overperforming in another. So it was a very, very confusing season. But the most amazing thing for me is still that, when we last spoke, we had Erling Haaland. Before him, we had Aubameyang, we had Dembele. We had Jadon Sancho when he was really up and coming. I think a few weeks after we spoke, or maybe, Bellingham joins Dortmund. We had all these players, but we get to the Champions League final with Madsen, with Füllkrug, with Süle. What's that all about? This is crazy. Of course, it was.
I found that a frustration for my days watching the team, that you had these genuine world class, if not world class, is close to world class, because I appreciate Sancho hasn't had a great time at Manchester United, but Sancho proved last season he's a top quality player, and it just seemed a frustration for me that the club had these guys and couldn't put a team to support these guys to go over the line and become champions. It's such a frustration, and I can imagine it's doubled for you.
What can I say? We had Haaland and Bellingham on the same team, and also there was Manuel Akanji, who's a regular at Man City now. So it was on paper a great team, but something was always a little something was missing. These players were very young when we had them, of course. Bellingham was a teenager when he joined us. He still is. Is he still a teenager? I'm not even sure. But Akanji, who's is a regular now at Man City.
It's mad, isn't it? It's mad because Akanji's last season, you were going, this guy's, he's no go to it. And as you say, integral to Man City.
Yeah. Fitball. I think you say Fitball, right?
That's a Fitball, aye.
Fitball is a strange game. We chat, a few minutes. I don't know what time it is, after we were beaten 5-1 at Stuttgart.
Yeah.
Now Stuttgart had a great season, last year. They were fantastic. So we buy 2 of their 3 best players. And they still beat us because we didn't buy the 3rd one,
I think you should have went to the top, though. I think you should have went and got the coach.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe. It's
But
it's a good coach.
A mad season that I think you've done well to kind of sum up your own thoughts. I'll give you I think there was a third group. There was the group that didn't really trust Terzic, but was going to give them everything and hope for the best. And my 2 pals were in that. They were like, I know what's going to happen here, but what can you do? Do you know what I mean? I don't think they believed in him, but they hoped in him.
Obviously he wasn't on the best of terms with Mats Hummels and Marco Reus. Understandably with Reus, because I think it was the right thing to do, to ease him out of the team. Because it's always difficult, with such a club icon. What do you do? you know, he was getting old, he was getting slower, and yeah. So, but you're right. It was probably he didn't have the entire squad behind him. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
he had the backing of the main upstairs, you know, especially of the chairman. But like I said,
We're literally just so what we'll hold that thought 2 seconds, right? So I'll let people know. So there's been a massive turnover this summer, on and off the pitch. 12 days after that final defeat, it was agreed that Edin Terzic wouldn't continue as head coach, and it was widely accepted that former player, current assistant manager Nouri Sahin would take over the role, and that was confirmed the following day. Now, you've said already a couple of times that Edin was your man. You thought he's one of you guys, and I liked him from when he won the cup. I thought he'd done great and I thought he deserved it. But I could see. But the club decided they were getting rid of Hummels and Royce, and then get rid of him, and that didn't tie up to me. I mean, I can only presume that he didn't get the kind of backing from everywhere that he wanted, and they kind of just went, right, that's been it. But
yeah, that's why I said he had the backing of the chairman. I think it was the chairman Aki Watzke, you know, who himself is going to step down in the near future. So there's going to be another upheaval. But anyway, as you rightfully said, it was a major upheaval in the off season. You know, it's not only Nouri Sahin coming in as new coach, and it's Lars Ricken is now sort of, you know, it's difficult to say exactly what he is. I mean, a lot of people expected that the director of football, Sebastian Kehl, you know, would be kicked out together with Edin Terzic. He didn't. So now Lars Ricken is sort of, you know, his boss, maybe. And it's difficult to say anyway. But the fact remains is that if we had half as many club icons on the pitch as we have off the pitch, you know, we would be doing fine.
You've still got your humour, mate. You've still got your humour.
It's
right. So,
which sorry, this is another thing. Actually, when I talk to fans, that's another criticism that's, you know, directed at the club in more general terms. You know, saying that it's nice and well, and it's honourable, and it's most people like it if you bring back all those players, you know, or keep club icons in important positions, you know. But there's now so many of them. You know, Matthias Sammer is still an advisor, and you know, there's also some people who think that maybe it's better to bring in somebody from outside, you know, somebody who's not so deeply steeped in the club culture, just because we sometimes have the feeling over the last couple of years, and I think you've mentioned that in a way, something has always gone wrong. We should have done better.
Yeah.
And the question is, 100%. what exactly is it that's missing? You know, some people say maybe it's the kind of winning mentality that Bayern Munich seem to have, you know, but that's one thing we always said Bayer Leverkusen don't have. And suddenly they have it in spades, you know. So it's difficult to say, but there is a line of thinking and an argument that says maybe we need somebody to really shake things up, you know, to somebody coming in from outside and having a cold hard look at the club and saying this is right and this is wrong. I don't know if that's maybe
So I think it's mega interesting because at Celtic, we've got we like to promote the youth coaches and stuff, all from ex-players, right? So, and then when we don't produce players, jobs for the boys. We shouldn't be appointing these guys. We should be go to Germany and get some of the best youth coaches and bring them in and do that and stop this. Go and get the best man for the job. However, if that doesn't work, then it's almost a reverse, and people go, well, they don't know what it's like to be part of the club. They don't know how it works. So I agree with you. I think so. I mean, But I thought that's what Matthias Sammer was supposed to do. He was supposed to come in and be that arsehole who was just going to tell people, this is it, this is it, this is it. So, I mean, I don't know the answer to that. I don't think you know the answer to that, but I think it's a very interesting debate to have.
Yeah, it's really confounding and frustrating, for most Dortmund fans.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. So we'll jump on to the players themselves, and you can kind of give me your opinion, right? So you set yourself back and relax, and whilst I go through this big list of guys here, right? So Ian Maatsen and Jadon Sancho obviously returned to Manchester City and Chelsea after their loans. Manchester United, sorry, and Chelsea after the loans ended. Young Spanish hopeful, this surprising, Mate Mori left at the end of his contract. Injuries kind of blighted his time at the club, but he's ended up joining Real Mallorca. Marius Wolf, who'd been a decent player, again, is at the proper level. He joined Augsburg. Antonio Papadopoulos joined Lugano. Samuel Bamba went to Bochum. Then, of course, Matt Hummels and Marco Reus both finished their contract and departed the club. Hummels, with his second spell at the club, joined from Bayern Munich on both occasions. He played for the club 508 times, scoring 38 times, including, and he actually played 40 times last season. He won 2 Bundesliga titles, 2 Pokals, 1 Super Cup, and he played in both Champions League finals. He subsequently signed for Roma. Marco Reus, club captain, who has since signed for LA Galaxy, was signed for Borussia Mönchengladbach in 2012 by Jurgen Klopp for around 17 million. He played 429 games and scored 170 goals, winning the Pokal twice, Super Cup twice, and of course they played in both the Champions League defeats. However, no league title. Ole Pohlmann signed with Rio Ave. Tom Roth left for Union Berlin. Paris Brunner joined Monaco. Abdelai Kamara left for Portsmouth. And finally, one that surprised me, Nicholas Füllkrug, fresh from scoring 15 goals last season in 43 games, signed for West Ham for 27 million. And then there was a whole bunch of boys all left on loan. Now, on the outgoings, we touched on it a second ago. What was your thoughts on the outgoings? Was it a case of they had to go for Edin Terzic to get better? Because Mats Hummel come off it arguably one of his best seasons.
Yeah, I mean, shortly before the Champions League final, Mats Hummels gave an interview in which he was fairly critical of the coach.
Yeah,
and
that's
I
right.
think the club just... I think probably until that point, the club was thinking about, extending his contract for another year. But it's difficult. He's he's a very smart man. Mats Hummels is. Sometimes he's too smart for his own good. There are people like you said. He played a great season.
Mm-hmm.
He's not the fastest guy, but he's never been that. And some people were surprised that he wasn't called up to the national team for the Euros.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
But word on the street is that Nagelsmann, the national coach, thought that he's not going to be a starting centre back for me, Hummels. And he means trouble if he's not starting.
Yeah.
So, he's got a bit of an ego, Mats has. Rightfully so.
To touch on that, Uli, I remember Gordon Strachan, the former Celtic manager, who ended up the Scotland manager, obviously, and he said that he was asked, did he enjoy international football? And he says, I loved it because I called up players, and if the player's a bit of a tube, I just don't call him up again.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I was like, that's a very good point.
Yeah,
it's
good point.
Yeah.
Good point. Yeah. And so I think that's the main reason Hummels' contract wasn't extended. Like you said, the big surprising transfer was Füllkrug.
Mm-hmm.
He was a big star for us last season.
Yeah.
And he was one of the bright spots at the Euros. But Well, the club decided to sign Guirassy from Stuttgart.
Mm-hmm.
You know, one of the two players I just mentioned, two of their three best players. With hindsight, we should have bought Undav as well. But anyway, this was a transfer that most people liked. I'm still not totally convinced by signing Serhou Guirassy, because I don't know his exact age, but he's in his late 20s or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So he's been playing a lot of football already, and he's only had one really, really prolific season, and that was last season. Last season, he scored, goals almost at will for a very, very good team.
Yeah. He's 28 as of this year.
28, yeah. So my thought was, is he really going to repeat that season? I'm not sure about it, but maybe it was worth taking a chance. However, of course, that meant you suddenly had two center forwards, and Falkirk wasn't. I mean, he probably wasn't happy about the Guirassy transfer. Was not happy about a season in which he's going to be perhaps the number 2 center forward.
Mm-hmm.
And then came this offer from the Premier League, and
Yeah.
at that point, even from the club's point of view, I mean, you don't want to see your best striker go, but if you get that much money for him, a lot more than we paid for him, that was just I think that was just a common sense.
Yeah.
I
think that it surprised me, but it made sense, and exactly what you said. You put this outlay for Guirassy, and at that point, I still think Haller was at the club at that point as well. Do you know what I mean? And then you kind of, so you're thinking, right, there's your, and obviously Haller has since joined Darmstadt, am I right?
Yeah,
Leganes. He joined Leganes in Spain. Yeah.
And so it's rather the other two. We've lost another two more centre forwards. You've just mentioned we lost Paris Brunner, who's also rumoured to be a bit of a handful.
In terms of attitude.
Yeah, in terms of attitude.
Okay. I didn't know that.
Again, it's just that's what you hear on the streets, because he is a very talented young man, and the question is, why he's not playing more regularly. So, and the other is Youssoufa Moukoko.
Yeah.
Once hailed as the greatest of all striking talents in Germany, who hasn't played as much as he would have liked to, and who hasn't played as much as I think many fans would have liked them to see him. So he's been loaned out. So that suddenly means from 4 or 5 center forwards, we're now suddenly down to basically just Guirassy, which is also not an ideal situation. Yeah. I mean, we've got this young chap from Hoffenheim, Bayer, who's supposed to play. I mean, he doesn't look like a centre forward, if you know what I mean.
No, I was thinking that as well.
Yeah, he's certainly not a classic target man.
I was going to say he's kind of one of the modern type forwards who floats everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He's
right. So as the expert in this that you are, that was a fantastic segue, and let's start talking about the ins. So Gio Reyna returned from his loan spell at Nottingham Forest. After fantastic seasons with Stuttgart, the aforementioned Vladimir Anton and Serhou Guirassy both signed up. Anton for $22.5 million. A 28-year-old German international centre-back has played over 120 times for Stuttgart, while Guirassy, a French-born Ghanaian international centre-forward who had that own tremendous season after scoring 44 times in 58 games, also 28. So then, fresh from the Euro 2024, 33-year-old Pascal Gross returned to the country and to his boyhood heroes from Brighton. The midfielder turned out 200 times for the EPL side. Maximilian Bayer, a 21-year-old forward, was next to sign on in a £29.5 million deal from Hoffenheim. He scored 16 goals last season, which was his personal best. And finally, Yan Couto, the 22-year-old Brazilian fullback, was picked up from Man City on loan for the season. He's a full Brazilian international and has been on loan in Girona and Braga the past 3 seasons. Now, you've spoken about the forwards, and I'd like to come back to the forwards once we start talking about Dortmund in general. But what do you think? Did you think you covered all bases by what you brought in? Or was there glaring?
Yeah, this is, well, no, we didn't. The brief answer is no, we didn't. I was just trying to, I mean, most people complain about our fullbacks.
Yeah.
About the fullback situation, which is still, well, largely unresolved. But there's also, personally, I think we could use a bit more creativity. It's all down to Julian Brandt.
Julian Brandt,
yeah. He's got the vision and he's got the technique.
Yeah, but it's more pace and power now, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we've got pace. We've got Adeyemi, Jamie Gittens, of course, who's started really well this season. Yeah, so the fullbacks, a bit of some creativity. Maybe a stand-in target man. If Gerassi, it's going to be a long season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
got a good goalkeeper.
So it is really, really, really mad that I've got to admit ignorance on Paris Bruma, right? I didn't really look into him. But it is mad that you had Haller, you had Falkirk, and then you signed Genießen, and then within a week and a half you're just doing one, and Moyoko left as well, who my mates are big fans of him. They think he's a bit of a tube. But, he started well. Is it Nice he went to? He started well with him already. He's got loads of talent, but as you say, Sancho left and they just don't have, I don't know. They're definitely missing that creative player, the guy that gets you off your seat, as the old daddy used to say.
Yeah, I agree. Jamie Gittens is, he could become that.
Yeah.
He's
he's that good. He's lost his middle name.
Yeah, it makes things easier for all of us. Yeah.
Right, so squad-wise, right, so we've touched on it there. We're kind of on in the shop, so let's tighten it up. Goalkeeping-wise, Gregory Kobel has proved himself, in my opinion, to be a world-class goalkeeper.
Yeah.
I think he's excellent. Even tonight.
Yeah,
Yeah. Defence-wise, Nico Schlotterbeck looked like a superstar at Freiburg. A superstar. And Nicholas Sula obviously was coming from Munich, but both of them just don't look it at all, man.
Well, they're certainly making a lot more mistakes than they used to.
Yeah.
Let's put it this way. So, which is another thing. Coming back to what I was talking about like 10 or 15 minutes ago, that a lot of people keep wondering what's wrong with the club, or why aren't we? It's also that we keep buying players who were better for their clubs, before we bought them than they were for us. Which is another thing where a lot of people think that, I don't know if it's got to do with the club culture or with management, but there must be a reason for this. So, and both of these players are fairly good examples. Süle probably more than Schlotterbeck, because Bayern were really sad to see him go. Süle, they were actually a bit surprised to lose him to Dortmund.
That's right.
Yeah, but ever since he arrived, he's no longer the player he was at Bayern. He got a lot of stick on the internet for
double his size.
He was really not fit last season. Yeah, and he admitted to having well, not mental problems, but he admitted to having motivational problems, and he worked on it. Worked on this during the off season. He looks a lot fitter. He's lost a lot of weight, but he still keeps making mistakes. Yeah.
I mean, but I'm flustered thinking about it because you've had how many different coaches over the years, and so you know far better than me. You know far better than me. Borussia Dortmund still hasn't got over Jurgen Klopp. Still, all these years later, still haven't got over Jurgen Klopp. Nobody's come over and produced that league title that puts that to the back. And as you say, the players you're signing, they're arguably the best in Germany, outside of, obviously, Florian Wirtz recently and stuff like that, of course. But you're buying these top, and then they come in and the standard, I don't know, they seem to get drowned by the club. Like, see Ryerson come in. I think Ryerson's a really good player.
Yeah.
But he's certainly got a ceiling, hasn't he? You know what I mean? Julian Brand's the only guy, or Sabitzer as well, the only guys who I think of took a new level.
Yeah, and even Julian Brand, it took him a while.
Took him a long time. Yeah,
he struggled for quite a long time. Yeah, it's still, of course, it's right what you say, which makes it double tragic that we lost this league title, in the previous season, because Edin Terzic was so popular with the fans. He's from the area. He used to stand on the terraces as a fan, and to have him deliver this elusive league title, maybe that would have finally gotten us over the Jurgen Klopp hump. Although it's sometimes, sometimes I think we've gotten over it now. It's so long now. It's over 10 years.
Exactly.
And he's now semi-retired. So I think what most people yearn for now is not necessarily, the titles that Klopp delivered, because that was not in his job description. When we signed him, he was not signed to bring titles. It was the football. It was the excitement. It was the passion. All of this. I don't want to say it's become a bit stale, but it has. Which makes evenings like this Atletico game, all the more exciting and fantastic.
Yeah,
because that was really an old time football game, especially with Simeone on the side, and it was it's great.
Oh no, I do agree. It was a fantastic even the win last year against Bayern Munich. You think it's kind of pushing you in the right direction, and like nights like tonight, kind of just you go. I mean, we'll come on to it more as we talk about the games, but to me, Borussia Dortmund don't look like a team who know how to play with a centre forward. I mean, I know Uli Hesse scored tonight, but more recently, it comes down to kind of pieces of outstanding individual, like Jamie Gittins this season. They've relied on his individual brilliance rather than creating 15 chances. Do you know what I mean? There seems to be a disconnect between the forwards and the midfield for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's also why I said that maybe in terms of signings, we could have done with a bit more creativity, we need more vision in midfield, or more, I agree. We rely too much on in. I mean, it's in the first game of the season against Frankfurt and the game against Bruges. Is that how you say Bruges in the Champions League?
Well, how do you see it? See,
we say Brugge.
Because we've got them as well, and I need to find a fan to speak to. So I was led to believe the city was called Bruges. and the team was called Brugge, but I don't know.
Okay. Anyway, those guys.
The guys, the Belgians.
Those guys. I mean, we won those 2 games basically by starting Adeyemi, who's wearing down the right back over 70 minutes, and then we take Adeyemi off and bring Jamie Gittins. Of
Exactly
course,
right.
He's fresh and he's running rings around everybody, which is exciting, but it's also a bit, that's a tad too simple, That's not going to work against better teams.
Well, in those games, you're right what you're saying. You're wearing down the fullbacks, you're bringing on fresh legs, and you're winning the game late in the game due to it. But you're relying on Cobo stopping at the other side.
Yeah.
I mean, Bruges really should have scored, shouldn't he? At 0-0. They really, they've hit the bar. He's made a save and bounced up a defender. It was. So, right, as you say, we'll come on to that. So crack on, sorry.
No, which brings us to the Champions League.
Yeah. So
Celtic. So yeah.
I'll fly through the games that we've spoken about, right? Since we've just talked about them, right? So it's been I started my research last week, I hasten to add. So I've got a decent start to the season, right? So opening day win over Eintracht Frankfurt. Late goals from Gittins in the 72nd and the 93rd minute, winning it. Followed up by a lacklustre 0-0 away to Wolfsburg. Then a 4-2 enjoyable win over then league leaders Heidenheim. But that gave notice because defensively it wasn't great. Marlon Adeyemi double and a can penalty, but the goals gave concern. In the Pokal, a 4-1 win over Phonic Lupeg has set up a second round tie away to Wolfsburg at the end of next month. And the Champions League just last week, a great but late 3-0 win over Club Bruges in Bruges. Another 2 for Gittins and a 95th minute first goal for the club from the spot from Uli Hesse. Then, of course, within the last couple of hours, the team travelled to Stuttgart, and for the 4th game in the bounce, amazingly, Stuttgart have beaten BVB. And tonight, I have to say, with some ease, as they won 5-1. Uli Hesse scoring the only goal for Dortmund. So, with the games coming up, because obviously you've got a kind of mini derby game this Friday against Bochum, which I would presume you could do without. Celtic are on the following week. What's the thoughts so far? I mean, you've kind of touched on it, but obviously tonight's game's going to leave a more lasting thing, but were you looking at it and kind of seeing hopes? Were you seeing improvements, or was it? I
mean, it's still early days, of course.
Very.
But just looking at the first weeks, you kind of get the feeling it's going to be last season reloaded. Not playing very well in the league, conceding lots of goals in the league. But then doing very, very well in the Champions League. I mean, you said we were lucky. It's true, but it's still, it's still a 3-0 win away from home. So,
no, I agree with you. Right, so I'll throw up a wee bit of history before we get down to the brass tacks. On the 1st of October. My birthday, incidentally, just in case anybody meets me, Celtic will travel to Dortmund for a competitive fixture for the first time in 32 years. The clubs have met in European competition twice before, both in the UEFA Cup. The 1987, the first time I remember Celtic had been drawn ever to play a West German side. On the 15th of September, Celtic would win 2-1. Andy Walker opener on the 4th minute. He was equalised by Bether Bay captain Frank Mill in the 64th. But a Derek White goal in the 89th minute won the game on the night. 2 weeks later, a rampant home side would win 2-0, with both goals coming late in the game, 72nd and the 86th minute, both by club legend Nobby Dicko. They would go on to the 3rd round and then go down 5-2 in the aggregate to Club Bruges. 5 years later, the team met again and things were a bit more comfortable for the Germans as they won both legs. On the 20th of October, BVB won 1992 won 1-0 through Swiss legend Stefan Schapuzat, and in the return game 2 weeks later, a 2-1 scoreline sealed the deal. Jerry Craney had equalised for Celtic in the 13th minute, but another second half goal from Schapuzat and a Michael Zorc, the aforementioned strike, completed the comeback. BVB would get to the final, but over 2 legs lost to the Italian side, Juventus 6-1. So this season, Sahin's has prepared a 4-2-3-1. He's rotated the team slightly, but see, coming to next week, how do you expect your team to line up? How do you think they will approach the game? How would you like them to approach the game?
God, that's a lot of questions. I mean, let me first say that it is fantastic for us to have drawn Celtic, finally. I'm not sure if we talked about this the last time I was on the show, but there's lots of Dortmund supporters who really like Celtic. We think we have a bit of a fan friendship going on with Celtic, which maybe the Celts don't see quite that way.
Well, look behind me here. Come on, I've got it all in here.
And I've met many Celtic fans who are also Dortmund supporters. Many of them came over in the mid-'80s and remember especially that first game because there was a party for both sets of fans in the city, which was very unusual at the time. You know, it was the hooligan era, and the police were normally, you know, very and tried to keep the fan groups apart. But everything was different on that day, and a lot of people remember that very fondly. So we always wanted to play Celtic again. And now we draw you guys under the new format. There's only one, you know.
Only one game.
What a shame. I mean, what's that all about?
So many parties.
Yeah, so many Dortmund fans would have loved to go to Glasgow, you know, to paradise as it is. So that's a tad disappointing, I have to say.
It's quite frustrating. Yeah, I agree with you.
Especially it's also, you know, now they've brought back the standing areas, you know. The terracing is allowed in the Champions League again, so you've got more than 80,000 at Dortmund, and we would have loved to, you know, to come to Glasgow for a return leg. We'll
need to wait for the final.
Well, the final is in Munich.
Well, jeez.
So semis, how about that?
Semis, we'll go with the semis. Okay, we'll agree with the semis. That's fine.
Yeah. Then it's also the thing of the Euros, you know. The Scottish fans that were here, they seem to love Germany, and we love them. So it was in a way it was a fantastic draw, but you know the missing away leg is really that's a shame.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
but I don't know. I mean, like, all my friends were asking me, "You must be buzzing playing Dortmund," and I kind of go, "Nah, I don't really want to play Dortmund." I want to come over and see my friends and go to the pubs and enjoy the company and all that, because I was saying in our main show, I was talking to Jason, who you know obviously, and I was saying I think there'll be loads of Celtic fans in the Dortmund end, because there's loads of Germans who like Celtic. There's loads of Scottish in Germany who come and go to the games. There's loads of European, and I think it will be a party. I do think so. I hope there's nothing untoward. There's going to be loads of Celtic fans. And I think the Celtic fans' enthusiasm will raise Dortmund's enthusiasm, and I can see it being the atmosphere. I mean, the atmosphere is always brilliant in the stadium, but I can see it just being a special night. Do you know what I mean? Really, really loud.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. It will be great. I don't doubt. Yeah, that's true.
Right, now I'll push you for it. So,
I just wish we would stop playing. This, I mean, we probably talked about this 4 years ago. My slight dislike of "You'll Never Walk Alone." Not of the song, but of it being played and sung in Dortmund. I find this still a bit.
Right. I can't remember speaking about that. Yeah. So why don't you like it? You like Everton?
Well, it's not our song, It's. I mean, if there's Celtic fans listening who will come to Dortmund for the first time, so we do sing this ritually since I would say since the mid-90s, when a lot of German clubs started singing it.
Yeah,
and it was sort of imported, like I don't know, like 3 lines or whatever,
right,
like
okay,
one of those football songs, And there was still. I still remember talking to a Leverkusen fan who was, when were they playing Man United when they reached the Champions League final? It was in the early noughties. They were
2002, was it?
Yeah, exactly.
The Real Madrid final.
And they told me how they were singing "You'll Never Walk Alone" during the game at Old Trafford, and they were booed, and they didn't know why.
They didn't.
Well, this is a Liverpool club song, but for us in the 90s, for most German fans, it was just a football song,
Partly, yeah.
People have become more knowledgeable now, so they know all about this. They know it's a Liverpool and a Celtic song. So I'm slightly uncomfortable with that, especially because we don't play the Jerry and the Pacemakers version.
That's right.
We play a terrible. Terrible. I was going to say Eurotrash version, but that's too much. It was recorded by a Dortmund-based singer, and I don't. Anyway, I was going to say that. So it's not as if, I mean, we sing this ritually before the game, but it's still not the club song. I once got into a shouting match about this with a guy from the Deutsche Welle, who's an Arsenal supporter, who told me that you should get your own club song. And I said, we do. And he said, no, you don't. And I said, yeah, we do. And he said, no, you don't. And I said, yeah, we do. Because after "You'll Never Walk Alone," that's when we play the club song.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, it's not the club and them, but it's a song that's played right before the game.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, and most, of course, people sing it. And so I don't know. Well, don't get me wrong. Lots of people love it. A lot of people like it, and the atmosphere, it looks great. 80,000 people, all the scarves and everything. But if you look at the terrace, and if you see a place where you won't see people, raising the scarves, that's my son and me.
Right. Well, it's funny you say it, because my friends, I know one of them's got a Liverpool leaning, and he loves it. So he thinks that you've got that connection between Liverpool and Borussia Dortmund with that song and stuff like that. I mean, it doesn't bother me because, I think mine still sing it as well, don't they? They sing it quite regular. So like you say, it kind of hangs about. But
they used to sing it at lots of clubs, Kaiserslautern, and it was just in the early 90s, when this football boom started in Germany, it became the in thing to do. Sapoli, of course, and Sapoli still sing it because of Celtic.
So, coming back to the game, I thought you were trying to avoid my question.
Oh, yeah. I was.
Right. So Borussia Dortmund are favourites. There's no two ways about it. No matter how many Bundesliga games they might drop points and stuff, big favourites on the night. They're at home. Yeah. It's in the Champions League, as you rightly said. So you're big favourites on the night. How would you expect BVB to go out and play? Is it a press? Is it to overwhelm Celtic? Are they looking, or is it basically just how they've been playing recently? Just kind of see how it goes.
Yeah, that would be Klopp style, wouldn't it? Gegenpressing and don't give them time to breathe and everything. But we really no longer play that way. Which is another thing. I mean, which is also probably why we did so well last year in the Champions League. This is another theory. a lot of teams in the Bundesliga, they sit back and wait, and we don't quite know to break them down. But in the Champions League, it's different,
Especially with PSG, Milan, and Newcastle, who would all
exactly, especially. Yeah. So I mean, when we looked at the group last year, we thought this is the group of death,
Yeah.
But there were some advantages to it, because everybody was playing football, everybody's moving forward. You got room and everything. So, but still, having said that, we do play more. I do expect us to play more of a passing game and be more patient, because that's also what we did at Bruges, where it almost backfired. Where we were so patient that we almost fell asleep. But this is not going to happen at home, and not against Celtic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny. I watched tonight, and obviously tonight has got for me watching it has got a different interest than any other game before, because every other time I watch full-heartedly, I want Borussia Dortmund to win. I need them to win. And last season, I remember when they played Stuttgart 3 times in the one season, they beat each time. Do you know what I mean? And you're sitting going, fucking hell, what's going on? But the way that Stuttgart play against you guys is exactly how we need to play.
Yeah.
We need to put pressure on the middle guys and pressure on the forward guys, and almost allow your defence to make mistakes. That's the way I see it.
Yeah, which is probably right.
Can we do that to you? I don't know.
Yeah, that's. I agree with you absolutely. It's I mean, it's not just us. That was just the way Stuttgart played last season against whoever they played. Amazing, which is actually a lot of people were saying that this is actually how Dortmund should be playing.
Yeah.
And which is probably also why you said we should have gotten their coach. It's also, they do remind us a bit of those Klopp years, because they basically brought in a lot of unheard of players, very unknown players. This is not a star-studded squad, but they're playing very, very well as a team, with a lot of passion, with a lot of belief, with a lot of courage. And yeah, I mean, that's definitely how you should approach the game, because we've talked about this. Our defense does look shaky, if under pressure. I mean, that's probably true of most defenses.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But we, yeah, I mean, Stuttgart really exposed a lot of our defensive problems today.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing me sitting here saying I think Celtic should play like Stuttgart, but I would imagine that the rest of the Bundesliga is sitting saying we should play a lot like Stuttgart, apart from Leverkusen, of course. Right, okay, so
I mean, sorry, but our coach probably he probably said today that we should play like Stuttgart.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about Sahin is, for somebody who he got a lot of kudos for the Champions League run as assistant. I thought there was a lot of, things have turned up since he's come in, and things have, and I thought, so when he gets the job, I expected more of an impact on style. I know it's such a thing to talk about Xabi Alonso, but Xabi Alonso transformed Leverkusen.
Absolutely.
Transformed them in a way that makes him so desirable, and I just thought Sahin would do the same. I think he would come in, and Marco Reus is away, Mats Hummels away, the guys like Wolf's away. You've kind of brought the squad, and it's his. Obviously, it's not his, but I want you guys, and I still don't see it, and it's ironic that when the draw came out, I thought, fuck, Borussia Dortmund, they'll batter us. And whilst I don't think we'll win, I'm now thinking we could maybe give him a bloody nose here, you know.
Yeah, maybe it's also good for Celtic, you know, to play Dortmund early in the season.
Yeah.
When things are obviously not working as well as they
Mhm.
should be, so that could be a good time while we're still waiting for Shaheen to turn things around.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
If and when he does, I don't know. It's as you said, it's rare for coaches to really transform a team, you know.
Of course it is. Of course
But
it
they
is.
do. It does happen.
Mhm.
Alonso is a fantastic example. You know,
Mhm.
he's really turned everything around
And
at Leverkusen.
the two guys we spoke about, Hoeneß as well. Sebastian Hoeneß has done wonders at Stuttgart.
Klopp did it for us.
Yeah.
Way back when. And
let's forget about Klopp. Forget about Klopp. Right. Okay. So the game's going to be what it is. Okay. So let's just have a wee chat. Right. So what is the current perception of Celtic in Germany, in Dortmund, in Germany? Take away the kind of, like you said, I know there's a good few guys out there who like Celtic and stuff like that, but generally you're in the media. Is there an appreciation of Celtic? Joe Cole, who used to play with Liverpool, Chelsea, and England and stuff like that, he was saying Celtic have been a nothing club in Europe. Nobody thinks about them. And then the way they played last week, people have kind of took notice a wee bit.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a wake up call, I think.
Right. Interesting.
The thing is that, you know, I may be wrong here, but I think it's still a lot of people are still trying to work out how this Champions League thing works. This season, you know? But which I don't really mean the you know, who gets through and why. I mean, but it's how do you approach a Champions League season like that?
Yeah.
Where you don't have return legs. How many points will you need? You know, how can you even plan ahead? You know, and think, is it you know?
It's a great point, because now, like back in the day, you would say, like for Celtic anyway, less so for you guys, because you guys would be hopefully winning the group or qualifying early, and then the last couple of games you can forget. You can play a couple of guys. Whereas this time we play Aston Villa last, and Aston Villa have proven themselves to be a pretty good team, and we're kind of going, if Aston Villa are qualified, will they not really bother against us? And then or are they looking to get higher up?
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know what I mean? And are these games going to be? It's a very interesting point. And as you said, we're still kind of wrecking our heads. Is it better to play Borussia Dortmund early or late?
Yeah, exactly. That's one thing. It's also how do you approach these games? You know, if it were a group game, you know, you would say that, I don't know, we're in the group with Bruges, with say Celtic, and I don't know, let's say a big dog like PSG or whatever. You would say, okay, it's us and PSG, so we should, you know, we need these points. A draw away at Celtic will be okay, whatever. And of course, if it's knockout round, you know what to do, and you know how to approach the games. But right now, this is really, I mean, I still can't quite get my head around it. How you know, was it a good result for us? You know, the tremendous Celtic win, or a bad? I don't know. Also, I don't know how's the last round going to work. You know, all the games kick off at the same time, and then everybody's sitting there with a calculator or whatever.
Exactly, the league going like that. And the league's too big to have in your phone. You've kind of got to search up and search down.
Yeah.
Aye. No. But I mean, I just because I did wonder how Celtic were perceived, because we know in our heart of hearts what the Scottish League is, right? And it's frustrating. We're beside a giant league, and they suck up everything in the world, and we have suffered a lot from our own fault, but we've suffered being that close to England. And And obviously Celtic's results in Europe have been deplorable, really bad. Admittedly, the performances are getting better. So that was a really good night for us. It was only Slovan Bratislava. I know that. It was only Slovan. I'd done a bit of research on them. And all things being fair, Celtic should beat Slovan Bratislava at home. But that's not always been the case. So yeah. I did wonder when Dortmund got these list of fixtures, as you said, do they kind of look at, obviously you're looking at Celtic 3 points, but is there a kind of
Actually, well, personally, my first reaction was actually, like I said, it's a fantastic draw. We've been waiting to play Celtic for ages. I wasn't immediately thinking about it in terms of, is it, how's the team, who's playing, will it be difficult, or I just thought it's going to be fantastic, floodlights, 80,000 fans, Celtic are at the ground. There's so many Dortmund fans with those Celtic and Dortmund scarves. One half is black and yellow, the other is green and white. So
a few flags out there as well that I've made in the past.
Yeah. Always. So it's difficult for me to say because, I mean, let's face it, like, we don't see much Scottish football on television. But I hope I'm allowed to mention them because, Rangers had this great run and then played Frankfurt in the final, went all the way to the final. The Scottish national team, played great qualifying campaign for the Euros.
I think we'll end it there. They played well in the qualifiers, and then nothing happened.
Yeah, but there was a buzz. There was a general feeling about, after all those years, maybe the Scottish game is, because I don't even know about my son or whatever, but my generation, of course, grew up with all those great Scottish players and Scottish teams. And that's always, that's actually something we missed, as a presence on the European stage. The great Scottish team.
But it is the way of football now, isn't it? I mean,
you
even go back to the 90s, some of the lost clubs. Do you know what I mean? I was only talking recently about Rosenborg, and you look at Rosenborg. Remember, Rosenborg were beating Real Madrid, and look at Rosenborg now. And mad, is it just the way of football? But hopefully Celtic's on the way back. Right, I'm going to leave you with a couple of questions, mate, because you've been absolutely fantastic. Right, first of all, can you give me your hopes for the club for this season, and then your hopes for the club just in going ahead? Where do you want the club to improve? Obviously, league champions this year, Champions League as well, and the cup.
I'm not going to mention his name again, but let's briefly go back to this coach that we had. It's not, I think I speak for a lot of fans when I say that it's not necessarily about winning trophies. We accept that we're a big club, but we will always struggle against Bayern Munich. They will always have more money and better players. So we can't expect to so we should have a chance to grab a title when Bayern have an off year.
Mm-hmm.
But what I would hope for is that we have the feeling more regularly that you're not going home disappointed. And I mean, regardless of the result.
Right.
It was really for the first years, I mean, for quite a lot of years, actually, under Klopp, there he is again. It was what made people like him so much was that we never went home and thought that somebody hadn't given his all. They should have done maybe a bit more. Maybe, we always felt this was the top performance. They did everything they could, and we either won or lost. These things happen. And I would like for us to have this feeling more often, because the last couple of years have been, a slight disappointment. Has been sort of, the de facto. How do you say this in English? Sort of the default mode.
Right. Yeah.
For a Dortmund fan.
Yeah.
And yeah, which is
Is that? I know it was only 12 years ago now, 11 years ago now, but is that gone from the fickle football fan nature? Because I sit at games and I hear people going off their heads at a bad pass, and you're sitting going, calm down now. And you go into social media, and social media is a cesspit of people. He's shite. And he's only played one game. I mean, you're like, I don't know.
Yeah. Now, what I mean is the atmosphere at the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Not social media or not.
Yeah.
It's also I'm on the terraces, so it's different, from seated area where people tend to be more.
So Dortmund needs something to unite everybody. To get everybody.
I mean, I'm not far from the ultras where I stand. It's not far from the ultras who will support the team for 90 minutes.
Yeah,
and he will never boo. Whatever.
Of course.
So it's not like we single out certain players and say you can play or whatever. It's more general feeling. It's a feeling that you go home and think, yeah, it was okay. So the number of games where you go home and say this has been absolutely amazing, has become very small. For various reasons. And I just, I would like to double that number. Let's say, if that's, that's what I would hope for maybe this season or maybe the near future.
What a unique answer, Uli. That's an absolute. I've done loads of these podcasts with fans from all around the world, and that's the first time anybody, because everybody's saying, I'd like to get a win. I'd like to get in the Scottish Cup final. I'd like to get this. So it's quite a thing. And the amazing thing is, I know exactly what you're talking about, because I talk to my Dortmund friends, my Borussia friends, and I know what you're saying. So, right. So I'm going to come to the end. Before we go, now you're a very, very interesting man. Are you on social media? Should the people want to follow you and have a wee gander at see what you're saying?
Yeah, not really. No, I'm on Facebook and things like that, but I'm not. I've never.
No. You keep away for the madness.
Yeah, I've never been. This Twitter X thing or whatever it's called these days.
Brilliant. And
it was just,
Where are you currently working?
I work for El Freunde magazine still, biggest German football monthly. Only no longer in Berlin, where the magazine is based, because as I said at the beginning, we moved back to the Dortmund area now. I mean, I go to Berlin about once a month for a couple of days. But
and what do you cover mostly now?
Well, I've been kicked up the career ladder, which means I've got a grand title now, which is managing editor.
Oh, lovely!
It means twice the amount of work, same amount of money. So you know how it works.
Twice the amount of pressure. Yep.
Yeah.
But right, so Uli, thank you very much for taking time out of your night to speak to me. Now, I know how hard it must have been to get your bum off after watching a 5-1 defeat and coming and speaking to the opposition. I hope it's kind of helped you and let a couple of things off your chest. But I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and I'm really, really appreciative of you coming on. And I'd like to just say thank you again, mate.
Thank you, Scott. It was my pleasure. And like I said, I'm really, really looking forward to it.
Right, so I'll finish up with this. Uli Hesse, thank you very much.
Good.
1909 an Bord Borsigplatz geboren. Weiße Wiese war dein erster Fußballplatz. Durch die harten Zeiten stets aufrecht gegangen. Mit Mut und Stolz und großer Leidenschaft. Alle gratulieren dir zu deinem Jubiläumsjahr. Schwarz und Gelb, wir stehen zu dir, wir sind immer da. 100 Jahre Borussia Dortmund, 100 Jahre BVB, 100 Jahre ein Verein, ja so soll es immer sein. 100 Jahre Borussia Dortmund, 100 Jahre BVB, 100 Jahre ein Verein, ja so soll es immer sein. Ab den 50ern ging es steil nach oben. Endlich war sie da, die deutsche Meisterschaft. DFB, Europa, Weltpokal gewonnen. Zusammen mit den besten, treuesten Fans. Alle gratulieren dir zu deinem Jubiläumsjahr. Schwarz und Gelb, wir stehen zu dir, wir sind immer da. 100 Jahre Borussia Dortmund, 100 Jahre BVB, 100 Jahre ein Verein, ja so soll es immer sein. 100 Jahre Borussia Dortmund, 100 Jahre BVB, 100 Jahre ein Verein, ja so soll es immer sein. So soll es immer sein.